Hello and welcome back. We're starting in Spark mode again to give anyone who has not watched Season 2 of The Mandalorian one last opportunity to exit the video before we get into any spoiler discussion. My name is Rich and let's get started. In my last video I shared a playthrough of my Calodan Magistrate challenge, inspired by Chapter 13 of The Mandalorian titled The Jedi, when Ahsoka Tano was introduced into live action. This video will feature the forest and wall builds for the level, and the next two videos will focus on the town and magistrate's residence builds. While these tutorials won't be a block-by-block recreation of the level, I will provide a detailed description of how I put it all together. After the basic build videos, I will provide a logic video, which I still have to plan out. Okay, so we're starting out here with Boba Fett. First thing I'm going to do is take a quick tour of the toy box level. Just a quick pan view here of the forest, the terrain, various types of trees that we use, the basic layout. You can see the wall there at the start of the town. Fly in slowly for a slow pan view of the town basic build. Quick overview of it. That will be provided in the next video. And then finally there will be a third video that will focus on the build of the magistrate's residence, as well as the background scenery there for the town, as well as the industrial complex. So that's a brief overview of the three main sections of the toy box build. We'll go ahead and fly back to the forest and we'll get started with our discussion of how I put that together. A little bit of fun flying here with Boba Fett. Very skillful flying, if I do say so myself. So coming to the Spark mode, and we'll take a tour of our forest build here. For the forest, I used the Halloween Town power disc and the Jack Scary decorations theme for the forest here. So you'll need the power disc to do that. It's not the only viable option. There's several other options. I used the large flat terrain blocks here to create the base for the forest. I went 2 deep here and 3 across. I also made 5 hills just to add some interest to the terrain. I tried to place them kind of randomly, space them out so that they weren't too symmetrical, showing the blocks that we used here to create these tiny slopes on the edges and the small corner hills for each of the corners. This is all at your discretion of how you want your level to look. Can be as creative as you like. Along the edges, I was a bit symmetrical here. I used these large corner hills on the edges here, followed by one large slope. And then we used on the corners these terrain slope number 9 on this side, terrain slope number 8 on the far side, and in between the smooth terrain slope 7s. As for tree selection, there's not a lot of great selections to have a burnt out forest, but these briar bushes work quite well. As well as I used the Dunbrook trees. I can't say the word, I struggle with that a little bit, sorry. I used the medium, large, and small Dunbrook trees. While they have leaves on them, it's minimal foliage and it still works well for the level. I also scattered around some of these Dunbrook logs. Makes nice obstacles, as well as something to take cover behind. The enemies also will use that for cover when you're attacking them. I also used a few, not too many of these, but these small, medium, and large Dunbrook bushes throughout the level. I really struggle pronouncing that word.
So here's just a quick view
of what these terrain features do for the gameplay without the smoke. So it creates these narrow ravines that the enemies can use for cover, that you can use as the player for cover, or to sneak up on the enemies using your radar to help you find the enemies rather through the smoke. And of course, here's our starting point. So here's the basic wall design that I'm trying to recreate. You notice the columns there sticking out from the edges of the wall. My walls are hollow. I used the wall plates that gave me this nice space in between where I could hide all of the logic. I have it all grouped by phase of the game, going from the forest phase to the town phase to the magistrate phase, and then finally to the end game. I used the castle brick theme for all of my walls, both here along the main wall as well as the walls surrounding the magistrate's residence. These are the large block walls, and then above we use the small block walls to fill in the top. And then side by side floor plates, the small floors, to create that. And then I use these sliding rails from the Asgardian railing, group 7 there. And that's the fun thing about using these rails, is that you can slide along them. Adds a little bit of extra fun for gameplay for the players. Now there is no bell. I couldn't find anything good for a bell, so I used this Ewok Village long drum from building set group 1. If anybody has a suggestion on a better idea of how to recreate the bell, I'm open to suggestions in the comments. I also used the Jakku outpost archway here as the cover. Repeated that several times throughout the level in the magistrate's residence area. For the stone path, this is the racetrack. And I repeated that through the town to the magistrate's residence entrance. And this is set to the pirates theme. There it is. And then I use these terrain blends along the edges, and I set those to the Dusty Crop Hoppers theme, I believe. We'll find it here in just a moment. Yep, there it is, Dusty Crop Hoppers Runway. So what I'm going to do next here is I'm just going to grab a block here, and we're going to go over to the side, and I'm actually going to do a block by block recreation of the main gate. So we'll start with our 1x3 tall blocks, and I've set my theme to the castle brick theme. That's again open to your own interpretation or your own aesthetic appeal with what you like. Several good options beyond just the castle brick. So I'm going to start out with 4. I'm going to go over a space of 2 blocks to create room for our gate doors. We'll come back with 4 more blocks. On the outer 1x3s, we'll stack a couple of square blocks. And then for the floor at the top of the gate, we'll use a couple of these 1x3 tall blocks, and these square blocks will fill in the gaps. And then underneath we'll put our 1x3 blocks, and this will form the basic foundation for the main gate. Now to create the outcroppings, the wall outcroppings, using these ramp vertical blocks. You can see how we space those. And we're going to do this on either side. Also made the similar outcroppings for each, for the two far ends of the wall. On the forest side of the wall. And then we can fill in the openings with our square blocks. And then for the angled corners that you can see in the screenshots for the wall, we'll use these wedge blocks. And we'll do that on either side of these outcroppings. Now these do not get repeated over here. This is where we're going to build our stairs, our steep stairs. So I'll show that after the wall build. I won't recreate it, but I'll go into the town and do a quick Spark mode overview of how I did it. Not doing block by block because I can't really remember how I did it. Lots of experimentation. That's how I did it. Now I'm just going to show how I built this wall out here on either side to the left and right of the main gate. I believe that's the orientation that I used. I'm just coming over here to the front wall to make sure that it was correct orientation, and it is. So you can lay these out as far to the left and right as you want your wall to, to be, how big or how long you want your wall to be. And then we'll use the short block walls to fill in the top. I had to get this vertical height for the angled outcropping pieces. And then we'll just double up our small floors here side by side. That covers it up completely with no light gaps, as well as provides space to hide your logic. Now the next is the foot portion of the outcroppings. In my original build I used these ramp blocks. Since then I have switched it to the long wedge blocks. I think it gives a better looking aesthetic for the base of the outcroppings. It more closely resembles the pictures from the episode, and I highlight that in my next video because I actually made that change after I completed this video. But the technique all works the same using a path. So we'll need our path tool to connect these blocks to the ends of the outcroppings. I'm just doing a quick test there because often my path tool will glitch on me and won't draw a path. So I was just testing to make sure it would work. So we're going to use this path tool and we're going to set the properties to off. And they will remain off to hold the blocks in place. And I'm going to repeat this for each of the outcroppings. You would also do this for the outcroppings at the far ends of your wall. See, it didn't take. That's one of the glitches. I'll lay down a path and then it will disappear. And we're going to turn this path off as well. And we'll repeat this process on this side for these two outcroppings on the town side. And it just glitched on me again. Once again, property set to off. And one more. And of course, once again, property set to off. Now all we have to do is connect these wedge blocks, or if you use the long wedge blocks, as I switch to, you don't need to adjust the properties of their position. They look quite nicely at their centered position, centered on the beginning of the path tool. I was just double checking that I had turned that path off because I couldn't remember if I'd done it or not. So either these ramp blocks or the long wedge blocks, as I'll demonstrate in my next video, which I switched to, they both work well, but I decided that the long wedge block actually looks better. Grab our path tool again, and we're going to come to the exact center of our wall to place the path for our doors. So you can see up here on top, easier to locate the center. We'll move down and one spot in from the wall. And our path will move in the direction that the door will open, and we go 2 spots over for that. It's important that the path starts inside the walkway and moves in the direction that the door will open. Door will open for the way the logic's going to work. If you do it the opposite direction, the logic won't work correctly. So we'll do it again. 2 spots in. And just like the other path, we're going to temporarily turn these off. And I set the speed to 50. 50 works quite well for the path, and I had done that on the other path as well. Once we get the doors connected, we'll be able to turn these 2 paths back on for door operation. And I accidentally deleted it, so we're going to do it again. Itchy trigger finger with my B button, which is my cancel button on my Xbox One. So once again, off and 50 for the speed. Just grabbing the wall piece there so I can get the block walls. These will be our door panels. And for the door panel, I like the kiln theme. Thought it gave a good metal looking door theme. So we'll switch that to kiln. I'll add a second door. Here's just a quick look of what the kiln theme looks like, and we'll go ahead and connect these to the path. Now the properties of each door panel are going to be the same. All we need to adjust here is the movement style to reverse one way and stop. Since the path goes in the direction the door opens, when we select reverse one way and stop and turn the path back on, the door won't move because it's reversing and stopping. So it's reversing against the flow of the path, and that holds the door in place until we introduce some sort of logic that will make the door move. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to connect it to our path. And then we can go to the properties and once again change it to reverse one way and stop. And now we'll go turn our path property back to on. Now get ourselves some more tools here. First we'll get our sound effects speaker. Place that to the side here. We need a locator for the sound. And a trigger area for the doors and the sound effects. So first we'll hook up the trigger area to each door panel. So when entered, player any, toy box path, we will reverse the door and that will open it. Then we'll come back, exited, player any, go back to the same door panel, toy box path, and we will reverse it again, which will close the door. And we'll repeat this process for the second door panel. All of my doors in my Death Star level work on the same exact simple logic. So when entered, player any, toy box path, reverse, that door panel will open. And once again, new logic connection. When exited, player any, we will once again reverse the toy box path. So there are our entered and exited logic for opening and closing the door panels. Just double checking that the connections are there and correct. Now we can hook up our locator, new locator connection to our sound effects generator, and we can move this in front of the door. Properties for the sound effects generator, we can just leave it on, volume it wherever you want it. I left it at max. And now we're going to hook that up to our trigger area, entered, player any. I'm going to go to action, and thank you to Papa H and his floor is lava level. We're going to use the roller coaster ascending sound here, a very cool door opening sound. And then player exited, player any. I hit the wrong button. New logic connection, exited, player any. There we go, correct this time. And we're going to go back to action, and we're going to look for roller coaster descending. Two very cool sounding large door opening and closing sounds. Now we can put our trigger area in place, centered in the gateway entrance here. And because we have nice space between the two faces of our wall, the front face and back face, we have adequate room here to put all of our logic. Easy access to make changes or corrections to as well. And now we can test out our door. Enter the trigger area, the doors reverse and open. We have our roller coaster sounding side, and when we exit, the doors reverse direction again and close. And we have a functional main gate entrance. This trigger area, of course, will be turned off at the beginning of the challenge until we're ready to enter the town, when it's reactivated. For the rest of the wall, I only went with a single panel here to save on memory. I was making the wall double paneled like the front of the wall, but it was eating up too much memory. And to fit these corner pieces and that top wall piece, I had to attach them to a path. Otherwise they wouldn't line up correctly. So that's what that little path tool is there for these 4 wedge blocks and that one upper panel. And to do this, I'm just showing that you have to adjust the horizontal, vertical, and forward and backward offsets. For each block going down, you have to give it a lower vertical height. So once again, I continued with this single wall thickness here just for saving on memory, and I had to do the same thing over here in this corner. I had to use a path tool to get them to line up properly. Now our stairs. There were steep stairs leading up to the overlook area of the main gate entrance. So I wanted to recreate my own using these blocks. So I used the square blocks and the 1x3 tall blocks to do this. I used one path tool here to connect the 1x1 block and 4 path tools at ground level dragging straight down, and every one of these paths is turned to off. I have 6 1x3s creating the steps, and at the top I have the 1x1 block. I guess that could have been a 1x3 as well, but for whatever reason I chose a 1x1 block. Looking at some of the properties of these, here's the 1x1 square block, which is the top step. Once again, just adjusting horizontal, vertical, and forward and backward offset. Depending upon your orientation of your blocks in your toy box, I didn't need to use horizontal offset, only vertical and forward and backwards offsets. And my logic for both sets of stairs are the same on both the left side here and the right side. Just trying to grab the correct 1x3 here. A little bit hard when they're all blended together. There we go, that's what I'm looking for. So here at a vertical offset of 0 because it's sitting level on the ground. But I did have to adjust the forward and backward offset. Now this will vary based upon where you place your path tools. So that first 1x3 had a vertical offset of 0. This one's going to be at -2. The third one will be at -4. The fourth one at -6. The fifth one at -8. And the last one, which I'll show, will be at -10 for the 6. So 1x3 vertical blocks. So after a while you start to see a pattern. And I didn't get this correct on the first attempt. This took quite a bit of experimentation for me to get it the way I want it to look. There's the fourth, the fifth, and here's the final 6th block. And we'll just show that each of those steps down by -2, a value of -2 for the vertical path. So this one's at -10. Once again, your forward and backward offset will depend upon where you place your path tool, how many path tools you're using. And if you use horizontal adjustments, that would probably likely have to do something with the orientation of your toy box or the blocks themselves. So that's it. That's our forest and wall build for our Calodan Magistrate challenge. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Happy holidays. Be safe, be well, and we'll talk to you again soon.